Yep, we are live.
Okay, great. All right, so thank you everyone for coming. Inshallah, today's workshop is going to be about narrative analysis in qualitative research. Specifically, we're following Fraser's narrative analysis. So I sent out that article and some notes for you guys to kind of review beforehand. So I hope that was a little bit helpful at least. So starting off, just going into why we chose this specific method and why we're doing this type of analysis. And it's because our project is really centered around storytelling and narratives, right? And in general, storytelling is a natural experience of being human. And the way that we do the interviews, right? You're listening to the stories of these men. You're not kind of just asking them, very surface level questions. It's like a long narrative, right? So by analyzing data through looking at stories of participants, you get insight into different like cultural, political, personal background contexts that you might not have gotten with other methods, maybe. So, and this is from the article as well. So narrative approaches encourage a plurality of truths to be known and provide ways to make sense of language, including that which is not spoken. Narrative research should not only reflect reality, but also challenge taken for granted beliefs, assertions, and assumptions, including those made by revered social theorists. So that's kind of what we're doing with our interviews that we do with these men. And then when we analyze, it's kind of getting like those new perspectives, right? And so this is from, these are just a couple of slides from Dr. Clive Baldwin's presentation, which he did for us a couple weeks ago. So he talked a lot about the analysis of narrative. So the analysis of data that has a narrative form, while many qualitative studies claim they are doing narrative analysis of this type, the data they are analyzing are not necessarily narrative in form. So qualitative data is not narrative data. Analysis of narratives involves breaking apart data for multiple purposes. So for example, like thematic analysis, linguistic analysis, etc. So that's kind of what we're doing here. And then there's a few different types of analysis of narrative. So there's thematic analysis, linguistic, rhetorical, structural, and positioning. So going straight into the Fraser's narrative analysis, which is like the most important part for us in our project. There's 7 steps to this analysis, and it's called line by line analysis. So what we're going to be doing is like, we have all the lines numbered, and then we are analyzing line by line, right? So the first step is hearing the stories and experiencing the emotions, which we would have already done because the interviews are already completed. So we listen to the interviews, we hear the stories, we are really in tune with the emotions that are coming out of these interviews. Number 2 is transcribing the interview materials, which again we already did. Transcribe, and then in our case we're also translating because they're not in English. And then step 3 is interpreting individual transcripts, and this is kind of where we're going to start off because we finished up to here. So now we're starting with the interpreting transcripts. Part 4 is scanning across different domains of experience. Part 5 is linking the personal and the political. Part 6 is looking for commonalities and differences, and part 7 is writing academic narratives. So I'm going to go through each of these in detail, and it's really important because this is basically what you guys are going to be doing with your data that you've collected. Dr. Rana, you've done it already last year with the pilot study. So maybe like, do you have any like thoughts on this type of analysis? Anything you might want to share with everyone else?
Sarah, it was really the first time that I conducted such or I followed such method in the research. And actually, it was published. If you want, I can share it with you in a German journal. It was about stories told from 2 refugees going to Europe, and I use the same method following the 7 steps. And I, if you remember, I thanked you and Dr. Amir for this opportunity, because it was the first time that I heard about it. And it was actually, I follow phase by phase, as you showed in your presentation last year. And it was, we're talking about qualitative research, we're talking about, it's something sometimes related to read between lines, not only what they said.
Mm-hmm.
I mean the beneficiaries or the interviewees, and also you can mention or highlight their emotions as well, not only the phrases or the words that they elaborated about. So it was my first time that I used, and I believe that sometimes with the critical or sensitive topics we can use it. And uh, It's not a recipe, I can say, but we will, following the 7 steps, it's the standard. But when it comes to the reality, you I don't know if I can say it, you must be a little bit creative when choosing the topics, and how to relate between the topics that you've chosen. So
Mm-hmm.
thank you very much for this opportunity, and yeah, it was my first time that I used.
That's good. Alhamdulillah. That's good to hear. Thank you for sharing, Dr. Rania. So yeah, so this is basically the analysis that we're going to be doing for our data. So starting with phase 1, hearing the stories and experiencing the emotions. So this is what everyone would have already done during the interviews. And as Dr. Rania said, it's not just about like what they said, but it's also about the emotions that they said it with, the body language, the tone of how they were speaking. What patterns are there? Did they repeat certain words? Did they get angry when they said certain words? Did they get sad when they said certain words? So what sense do you get from each interview? How are emotions experienced during and after the interview? How does each interview tend to start, unfold, and end? Do you have adequate support to engage in work of this nature? So that's phase 1, which we have already completed. And then phase 2 is transcribing, and then in our case, translating the interviews. And then they are shared with the team for analysis. So this is the part where we're at now, and we are going to move into phase 3, which is interpreting individual transcripts. So this is when, for each transcript that you have, you are going to look through it, and you're going to divide it into sets of ideas expressed and scenes in which some sort of plot unfolds. So you're reading the transcript, you're thinking like, okay, there's a story that keeps repeating here. For example, they keep talking about religion. That's a story, right? So that you would organize that into like a story or like into a line. And I'll show an example now, but you look at the chronology, the beginnings, the endings, what type of like theme is coming up. And then for the entire transcript, you're going to find what are the common themes in all of these stories. So you're going to have more than one story, right? It's not just one. And are there main points that you can decipher from particular stories? So, for example, this is from the Qatar files from last year. So this was phase 3. There was a folder that said phase 3. You go into it, it has each transcript, and then in brackets phase 3. And then if you were to open one of them, this is what it would look like. So, for example, one story was they kept talking about their deceased parents and how it impacted his upbringing. So these are like multiple times where he talked about his parents. So I grouped those into one story. So then and then I put the line numbers. Okay, this he talked about it here, and then he also talked about it again later over here. So it kept repeating. Okay, he's talking about his parents and they influenced him. That's a story. And then there would be other stories as well. And I would mention them all in the same document, in that same transcript. Does anyone have any questions so far? Okay. Yeah.
I have a question just for the tool. Like when we regroup, it's in Word, or there is a tool that we use so it make it
It's just kind of like in Word, like Microsoft Word documents. Right now we're just using OneDrive, so it's just a folder. It says phase 3. You open the folder, and then it has all of these transcripts, and then yeah.
okay, thank you.
Sarah, can you go back just one slide back?
This one?
Yeah, so a little bit more. For now, we have like all these different transcripts, right? And as Sarah said, we read, we digested, right? Properly, we try to understand the whole thing properly, and it's always suggested that uh, it is better that the person who is doing the interview also transcribe it.
Mm-hmm.
In our case, in most cases, basically, I think our researchers are also transcribing it, so they know the whole theme.
Mm-hmm.
They have digested the whole thing. Now, from these stories, now, as Sarah said, now we are developing stories in context, right? Stories according to those resonated thread emerging, those themes emerging, right? You go to next, Sarah. Yeah. So this is the example, right? So Sarah, how you developed this? Can you a little bit elaborate on it? That how you come up with this story? Like, what was the process?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you're kind of reading through it and seeing like making note of things that keep repeating. So I had like a notebook with me, and I would just read through it, and I'd like, okay, I'm reading from beginning to end. Every time, this theme comes up, I just like make a note. Okay, diseased parents. And then again, maybe like religion. I'd write it down. And then I would group them all together. I would look at my notes and I say, like, okay, these are all the stories I have now. Let me group everything together under each story. And then I would write down, like, okay, story 1, story 2, story 3, story 4. Does that make sense?
Hmm. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so it helps to have like a note thing beside you, just like piece of paper or something, or even if you make notes in the actual document itself, like just make a comment. That helps a lot so that you don't forget what you're reading.
And in addition, you can see there, right? There is lines 25, 33, 62,
Hmm.
4. So
Yeah,
in your notes, in case you want to go back to it, and you will go back to it multiple times. So
yeah,
you are not wasting time. You have lines there. So
yeah.
at this point, one another thing is important for us is that when we are transcribing, so we have a standard of transcription. It's not that everyone is doing transcription in their own style. We have
Hmm.
a standard style that Sarah sent to all the academic stakeholders. So in that transcription style, it is line based.
Hmm.
So there's 1 to 200, 1 to 100. So each page, right? So we can easily find out
Yeah.
where is those lines, right?
Yeah, so actually, like if you go into Word, there's like an option, you just press show line numbers and then it will just come up. So it's very easy.
Yeah.
If it's not already there, I can just add it to all the transcripts. So you'll have the line numbers. Okay, so that's phase 3. So now you have and you're doing this for every single transcript. So you have, like, for example, if you did 15 interviews, you have 15 copies of the transcripts which are separated into these stories, right? And then for phase 4, you would do the same thing again. You would copy from phase 3, make a copy, add it into a new folder that says phase 4, and then you would have more copies of the same thing, and then you would do phase 4 on it. So phase 4 is scanning across different domains of experience. So now we want to see, okay, we have all these stories, but what type of experiences are they sharing in these stories? So we have intrapersonal, which is body mind experiences. So this is when the person is thinking to themselves, or they're recalling something that has to do with themselves only. So for example, I said or I thought to myself, and they're kind of having like an internal realization. That would be intrapersonal, and you would highlight it in yellow. Interpersonal is experiences involving other people. So if they're talking about, like, for example, my dad said to me, that would be interpersonal, and you would highlight it green. Blue is cultural or social, so large groups of people, sets of cultural conventions. So for example, if they were to say something like, in Turkey, it is not normal for us to do this. That would be like a cultural, social experience, and you would highlight it blue. And then we have religious. This one is not actually part of the article. Like it's kind of grouped in with cultural and social. But because our religion is such a big part of our project, we made it a separate domain, kind of just for our purposes. So that would be, you would highlight it in pink. So for example, somebody says something like, oh yeah, when I was younger, I used to go to the masjid and I would listen to what the imam had to say, and that really impacted my understanding of gender justice. That would be a religious experience, and you would highlight it pink. And then there's structural, which is aspects of stories that are distinct to public policies or social systems. So for example, someone's talking about a law that they have in their country. So like, okay, it's not legal for us to do this in this country. That would be great. You would highlight it as it's a structural domain of experience. Does that make sense so far? Any questions? Okay, and then this is an example. So you're gonna, and I'll make the folders in the thing, so it'll make sense once you like go to do it. But so we'd have another folder that says phase 4, and then the transcripts from phase 3 are copied. So remember the document that had each story written, you copy that and put it into phase 4, and then you would just go through and highlight the different domains of experience. So we're working with the same stories, and then we're just going to go through again and we're going to highlight it. So it's not like you just, you kind of pick out what is common and then you leave it. No, like we're going back and analyzing and like really thinking about, okay, so we have this story, but what does it tell me about this type of experience? So here we have like intrapersonal, striving to put sisters through school and encouraging education before marriage. So this person was really focused on putting his sisters through school. So that's an experience that he has with other people. So that's green. And then he talks about things that he faced. So I faced many difficulties being my sister's supporter. That's yellow because it's something he faced. He's like kind of reflecting on like himself, his own experiences, especially from the extended family. And then, extended family has to do with other people. So that would be green. And then he talks about Islamic lessons. And that would be pink. So just kind of going through them and like analyzing these specific experiences helps you really understand like, okay, what is it that these men were going through, right? So it's a lot more, it's less surface level than like a regular, just like analyzing the themes. It's like we're going into every single angle that we could possibly get from this. And then at the end of phase 4, so this is again the same document as this one, you would kind of summarize it. So you would highlight and add a summary like this at the top. So you would, okay, so these are some summaries from that. So interactions with family members led the participant to feel isolated from friends, family, and general community. And then that was one, and then that would be interpersonal because it was something that he was experiencing with other people. And then another common theme was religion. That's story 2, highlighted pink. And then at the end, I just kind of like summarized everything. I'm like, okay, these are the common themes that I'm getting from this transcript, from this one person. Does that make sense? Okay. Oh, sorry, do you have a question? Somebody unmuted.
Sarah, if you can a bit elaborate on the previous one, a little bit more.
This one?
Yeah.
Oh, this one?
This one, yeah.
Okay.
Steps, how you arrived to this and how you developed this, and how you come up with the common themes.
Okay, I'm gonna actually just pull up the folder itself so that it will make more sense for you guys. Just 1 second. Okay, so this is from what we did last year. So we have phase 3, phase 4, phase 5, phase 6. Obviously, we don't like phase 2 was the transcriptions, which was already there. So we're starting from phase 3, right? So from phase 3, I made a copy of every single transcript. So let's do transcript 1, for example. Transcript 1, phase 3. So I have up here the information, participant 1, 49 years old, married with 4 children, etc. Okay, these are all the different stories that I got from that transcript. So story 1, diseased parents. Story 2, putting sisters through school. Story 3, challenging the family members' approach, etc. And there's like a bunch, like I came up with 6 stories. So that was phase 3, right? Phase 4 is when you get into the highlighting. So phase 4, I made a copy of that same transcript and I highlighted. So it's the exact same thing, right? So story 1 is diseased parents. Okay, now I'm gonna go through all the stories and highlight these different domains of experience. So now it's kind of just, it's more clear to me what types of experiences we're working with. And then at the end, I added this to the top. I just put a summary of everything that I found from here, just to kind of have everything in one place and to organize my thoughts. So I found that his upbringing had a very profound impact in shaping his foundation for gender justice. I found that there was an emphasis on putting his sisters through school, and I put which story that was and exactly which color. I found there was an influence of Islam encouraging his advocacy, reforms of institutions that would be structural, so that's gray. And then at the end, I just summarized the common themes here. And so that way, when I'm doing, because you're doing it with every single transcript. So now, like, let's go to transcript 2. So now I'm going to transcript 2. I did the exact same thing. And now I can easily look at the common themes here. So I found, again, in transcript 2, diseased parents was a common theme. Education for sisters was a common theme. And that's going to help me later on when I'm grouping together everything. And then I can look at it and say, okay, this is what I found common here and here and here. Does that make sense? It's a little bit like, there's a lot of steps to it, but once you start, it'll get easier.
Okay. Sorry, I just have another question related to this. It seems like each story has only, for example, one either religion or interpersonal relations. But when we code the story, we can find more.
Yeah, you can find multiple. So like, for example, this one has a lot. What
Yes.
I did was I just looked at which one was the most, like, was coming out the most, and I like highlighted the whole headline with that color. But honestly, you could this is what, story 2. Like, you can do story 2 and then you can also say, okay, there's also yellow. So you could also just make a note that like it's also intrapersonal, and then you can just highlight it like that. It's, yeah, so it works. Like there's going to be multiple different domains of experience, obviously, because like this is a lot more complex. Like it's a whole
Yes.
narrative that's being told. So yeah, definitely you can do multiple different
Okay.
experiences.
So basically, we summarize the thought, what it said.
Up here,
Yes.
This is something that I did because I thought just made it a lot easier for me to like organize my thoughts. If you have a different way of doing it, like you can summarize in a different way, it's okay. But like as long as like everything is being highlighted and you're looking at the different domains of experience.
So it's like more about a style issue, right?
Yes.
Style,
Yeah.
your comfort, and your own style. You want to do it over the or
Yeah.
or on the paper, or so it's all about that. But you
Exactly. Yeah.
main steps, and then you do it whatever works for you better.
Yeah. Yeah. So the main step is just going through and highlighting everything. So as long as you do that, and then however you want to like summarize, you can write it down on a piece of paper if you want. That's like totally up to you.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Any other questions before we move on?
Adnan has a question,
yeah.
but I think we can't hear Adnan.
Oh. Oh yeah, we can't hear him.
We can't hear you, Adnan. You might have to sign out and sign in.
Or do you want to type out your question?
Hello? Is someone talking to me? Because it's not clear.
No, we're talking to Adnan, but if you have a question, you can, do you have a question, Dalal?
No, I don't. Thank you very much. Everything is clear.
I'm audible now, Sam?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, thank you. Actually, I need some clarity as, for instance, in Pakistan, we have conducted 14 interviews. So as you reflect upon the extracting themes and the different colors of interpersonal, culture, social, for that, what I am perceiving is, I have to go through from the entire interviews, as I can't miss any of the discussion. For instance, the theme might be somewhere hidden in any seconds. For instance, in our part, we try to have a discussion on the exclusive violence against women, but the answers come within umbrella wording of girls' education promotion. So for me, might be that is something, the theme I got mostly from the 14 interviews. So it means that I can't miss a single part in entire 14 interviews.
So not
Please.
necessarily, because with phase 3, you're kind of picking out the most important parts. You're picking out the stories. So the things that keep repeating, that's phase 3. You're picking out, for example, this was one story that I found. I found that he kept bringing up his parents. And so I wrote down all the quotes that I got from there. It's not like I didn't go through every single point that they made. I picked out the ones that were most frequent, most repetitive, things that I found interesting, that kind of created a story, if you will. Like a story is kind of a theme, right? And then from there, all those stories were highlighted with which types of experiences we found. Does that make sense?
And one more thing to keep in mind is that in the back of your head, you already know about the questions, right? That what are the questions in the interviews that we have been asking, and what is the goal and the objectives of the research. So that's there. This is what you want to find out. You are not going to go for everything the person is saying. Sometimes they will say a lot of things, right? But
yeah,
you are already focused on, in some ways you are open, but you are open and flexible, but you have objectives. So you are not ignoring the objectives of your research. So when you are selecting resonated threads and themes, those are not random coming from stories, right? So you are selecting things, are more interested in issues that are relevant to your research objectives.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. So that's phase 4. All right. So now you have basically 3 copies of each transcript. So you have, first is just the regular transcript from phase 2. And then you have phase 3, which is when you divided it into stories. And then you have phase 4, which is when you go and highlight the different experiences in each story. So now we have phase 5, which is linking the personal and the political. So this phase involves researchers deliberating how dominant discourses and their attendant social conventions constitute an interpretive framework for understanding their stories, for understanding the story. So you're going to ask yourself the following questions. What relationship do the stories have to particular discourses? What do stories say about the multiple lived experiences of class, gender, race, sexual orientation, age, disability, religion, geographical locations? So this is when you're kind of like, you're putting all your thoughts on what the stories say in these contexts. So religious, cultural, social, and political. So now for phase 5, you're just going to have a separate document and you're going to write down your thoughts about what all of those stories say about those different contexts. So you're summarizing your findings across all transcripts into one document. So I'm just going to show you guys an example here. So again, looking at what we did for Qatar last year. So we have phase 5. It's just one document and it just has a summary of what I found across all stories, all transcripts about these 3 points. So religious, cultural, and political context. So, and the reason we're doing this is because the religion, the culture, and the political contexts are very important in these stories, and it can impact the way that people like experience these things. So talking about religion or faith-based context, we talked about Islam playing a crucial role in motivating the participants. And then I have different examples from different transcripts. I'm like, okay, so for example, in transcript 1, story 4, this is what this person said, and this kind of supports my understanding of the way that religion plays in their stories. So this is kind of you just putting your thoughts about these different contexts. And then we have cultural, social. Okay, the nature of Qatari society. Participants highlighted that transformation occurs mainly in close circles rather than at a policy/societal level. So based on the culture and the social context there, it's better to do transformation in close circles rather than try to like change everything all at once. And that was like a theme that kept coming up. So that's what I wrote about here. And then there's also the political context. Little was said about the policy or legal aspect of this. So in this case, I don't have much to write about the political context because they didn't really talk about it too much, and that's fine. That can actually be something that you make a note of in your notes, like, okay, they didn't talk about politics. I wonder why. Maybe could it be like the situation that they're in, that country is in at that moment? Like, is there some sort of context that makes it difficult for them to talk about politics? Is politics not an important thing to them? Right. So even if there's nothing said about it, you can still kind of like make some notes. And that will tell you also more about the political context, even though nothing was said. Does anyone have any questions? Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to add a few things here.
Mhm.
Yeah. Sorry for being late to meeting, but I had some emergency at home. That was probably the reason. Here, this phase 5, like linking the personal with the political. Just keeping in mind the previous transcripts that we have, some that like we have already analyzed, and some like we are in the process of analyzing them. If we replace the word political with public policy, so it gives like more deeper meaning to our transcripts. Like for example, if you are getting a story as a resonant thread, and we are finding and thinking that what like state in this context is supposed to work. What is the responsibility of the state according to laws and rules and frames and things like that? And specifically like highlighting that perspective when we have multiple context. Like, for example, how state intervene to a particular issue in Pakistan, similarly to the same issue in Qatar, similarly to the same issue in Turkey, similar to the same issue in Iran. So that like comparative analysis give us much deeper meaning of how like what we expect from the state, what we should expect from the state, and like what responsibility of the state lies in the particular context. So like more if we analyze stories in light of public policy again, so it gives us comparatively more.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry, you were cutting off
Yeah,
a little bit for me, but what I understand is that you were saying that instead of political, you wrote public policy and you kind of analyzed through that lens of public
yeah,
policy.
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
you can, like you can do that. I think political kind of, like it sort of like legal systems and like that type of stuff sort of falls under that. So I think that still works.
Yeah, it's a very
Yeah, that like brings in, yeah, that like brings in the whole the whole like argumentation about
Wakar, you are cutting off. Yeah. Yeah, we can't hear you, Wakar.
informal institutions like from the beginning. But all the time, I don't know. It might be the internet
Yeah.
issue, but yeah, I'm trying to
Okay, so
reconnect.
it's okay. Like what we are think what a few words that I heard and I understood is what you are saying is that in terms of using the term political, we can use the term relevant to the context of that region, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, and which can encompass a broader, uh, but for example, here political is broader for us, but it may not be broader enough, or maybe a little bit sensitive in other context, in other region, using this terminology. So sometimes language has a lot of course, the language and wording has a lot of meaning associated with it, and it's also
Mm-hmm.
contextual. So, from here, what we mean by political is that it is following our theoretical framework. The whole method is following our theoretical framework. That we are not just uh, getting stories for the sake of stories or just for the linear kind of a very linear and descriptive analysis. No, our theoretical framework is decolonial, it's anti-oppressive, right? It's very political, our theoretical framework. It's more about structures and systems that we are challenging through their theoretical framework. So when we are talking about here political, we are finding out and we are believing that the root causes of many of these issues are not just personal or cultural. It's also about structures and systems. So with that kind of theoretical framework, when we are analyze data, so in terms of political, we are exploring all the political and systemic oppressions and structures that are creating these kind of violence are the source of that. So because we believe that macro politics and those political frameworks are really play a significant role. But I agree what Wakar said that in some regions, political may create an issue, right? So in terms of we may use terminologies like for the public policy or are more and more also going into more deeper into the state and the role and responsibility of the state in these frameworks. Is this Wakar what you are kind of referring to, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
Okay, let's move forward. And yeah, we have less time, so let's let Sarah finish the presentation, and then we take a few questions.
Okay. Thank you guys for your comments and questions. Inshallah, it'll hopefully make a lot more sense once we start. And I'm going to check in individually with each team. Maybe we can do an example together. just to make sure that everyone sort of grasps the concept well. So phase 6 is looking for commonalities and differences. So if you haven't already done that, this phase involves researchers examining the transcripts for commonalities and differences that exist among and between participants. So this is really where you're putting everything together and you're coming up with, okay, these are our maybe 4 or 5 resonant threads that we found in all of these stories. So resonant thread just kind of means like the common themes that we're finding across all of these stories. And so you're just going to make a different document. So if you see here, it's just one document, phase 6, and you're just going to summarize all of that, commonalities and differences between stories. So I had upbringing was a common theme that I found. Specifically people's, so a lot of the men talked about their parents being deceased, having passed away. And so I talk about each participant, what they said about that. So participant 1 said, participant 2 said, participant 3, participant 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then so on and so forth. I would do the same for all the themes that I found. So one of them was about religion. And then I talk about what each participant said about religion. And you don't necessarily have to do it like this. Like, this is just what I found was easy for me. The main point is just that you're comparing what you found across all the transcripts. So whatever way works for you, it doesn't need to be specifically like this. This is just what I found was easiest. And then at the very end, I summarized, okay, possible final themes. And these are like the final things that I came up with. So family legacies, upbringing and generational impacts, having like a sense of responsibility for their sisters, the influence of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and influence of Islam in general, transformation within small social circles. So these are like the final themes that I came up with. So yeah, this last phase is just, you're putting it all together and you're thinking, okay, like what is common across all of these transcripts, all of these stories that I've analyzed. And then you put it all together, basically. Does that make sense? Any questions? Okay. Phase 7, which we don't, obviously this will come later, but phase 7 is writing academic narratives about personal stories. So obviously we want to put all of this analysis and all of these findings into publication. We're going to be writing academic articles about it. So just kind of asking yourself different questions, because when you're writing like academically, it's different than sort of like a narrative, a narrative piece. So just ask yourself, like, make sure that your analysis is relevant to your research questions, the interpretations that you made of these findings, like, are they fair? Did you allow lots of time to like edit and review and make sure that you're accurately representing what these men have shared with you? So because they're sharing very vulnerable, like very sensitive things, they're not like easy to share, right? So you want to make sure that you're giving them a fair interpretation and that you are representing them the way that they would want to be represented, or the way that, like, is fair to them. That makes sense? Okay. So our next steps for all of this, I know this was like a lot of information. So I will be setting up a meeting with each individual team to check in and complete one sample transcript together if we need to. And that will be sometime this week or next week. I will just send out like a meeting link, and I'll have a time and a date. If it doesn't work for you, you can like let me know and we can adjust, but try to make it just try to like sort of be flexible with the dates, just because we don't have lots of time. And then each team will analyze their own set of data as well as the Canada team. So for example, like Pakistan will analyze the Pakistan data. Us in Canada will also analyze the Pakistan data. Like Qatar will analyze your data. We'll also analyze the Qatar data. And then once that is complete, so we actually want it to be completed by September 19th. So you have like a little over a month to do it. Once that is complete, we will meet again So I will meet, like, our team in Canada, we will meet with every individual team to discuss the findings, kind of just make sure that we came to at least like similar conclusions, right? We don't want it to be completely different. And that's going to be sometime in the end of September, maybe early October, like after it's been completed. And then we have the creation of digital stories, which is something that's going to be happening kind of simultaneously alongside the data analysis, but I will send more details about that, inshallah. We are going to have 5 digital stories from each region, from the participants in each region. And we will kind of support you guys with the making of those digital stories. And I'll have probably another session regarding that, just to have more information. So yeah, does that make sense? Anyone have any questions? All good? Okay. So keep an eye out for your emails. I'm going to be sending out meetings for us to, just to kind of check in and make sure everyone is on the same page, just because I know this was a bit of a complicated, it's a little bit of a long process, and it might not make sense until you like start it. So I will do that, inshallah, and then keep an eye out for any additional information as well.
Yeah. Okay. So thank you so much, everyone. And we really want to say thank you and grateful to you all for all the hard work you did in data collection and the whole process, right? So now we are in a very good shape now. Sarah has been doing the organizing work and you are in the field. Thank you, Dr. Wahid Yar, and Adnan is here, Waqar is here, Dr. Rania, Dalal, Dr. Ghulam is here from Saudi Arabia. So you all did all the work, and now we are basically in this phase in which we will start the fun work to analyze the data, right? It's a lot of fun, a lot of hard work though. So we will do it. And thank you, Sarah, for offering your time to individual meetings for each team member, and then you will work with them. I will join whenever I can with them just to analyze the data. It's a great training. It's not just for this project, for throughout your projects. Once you completed this training of hands-on experience of analyzing qualitative data, it's big, right? Quantitative is important, but it's you just give data to the computer and click the button, right? But here it's a lot of work, and there are many issues about researcher positionality and power issues. We need to be reflective about that as well. So we may have a session on that at some point. But moving forward, hopefully in September we will have data, and then the publication part. There are so many articles emerging from this data. So there would be publication starting after the analysis of the data. And as Sarah mentioned, another piece, important piece, is the digital stories, right? So what we will do is we will, as you know, in this project, we had 15 interviews, but for each region, 5 participants would volunteer to have, like, I don't know how many minutes, 5 minutes, 4 minutes, digital story. So it's another great training opportunities for you all. How to develop a digital stories. All right, it's not just a story; it's a research-based story. So we will provide training for digital stories, and then you will be in the field and asking those participants who are interested in digital stories. So that will be another piece of this project. Ultimately, we are preparing ourselves with our articles and with our analysis and all that uh, to come and present research articles and digital stories in our forthcoming symposium, right? Inshallah, which will be held somewhere in a nice place, Istanbul or anywhere, whenever we can. And you all will be invited to join us there. It will be a 2 day symposium, inshallah, in which we will share our research with scholars and with the communities and policymakers. So thank you so much, everyone, for your time today. And we'll be in touch. Sarah will be in touch. And the journey continues. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. We're lucky, huh?
Thank you. We are lucky to have you.
Thank you.
Salam alaikum.
Thank you, guys.
Very much.
Bye. Thank you, Sarah,
Great to
for
see
your
Dr.
effort.
Wahid after a while. Yeah.
Thank you.
And Wakar, I hope everything is okay. Adnan.
Alhamdulillah, sir. How are you?
Good to see you. Dalal, we were missing you last time. I hope everything is okay now. You are doing well.
طب لو بيجينا في كيرج